Ζύμη του σταυρού, που γίνεται της υψώσεως του σταυρού.
Τι είδος ψωμί φτιάχνει με αυτό το προζύμι?
Με αυτό το προζύμι, εδώ στο μοναστήρι, φτιάχνουμε ένα ψωμί, το οποίο είναι μισό κίτρινο, με άσπρο αλεύρι και 20 με 30% άλευρα ολικής αλέσεως.
Πάμε τώρα.
Πάμε.
Πάμε.
First, we feed the sourdough with water and flour and let it sit for about 8 hours to rise. Father Isaias also pours a little holy water, and then it is the time to cover the starter with a sheet and a blanket to keep warm overnight. A last important step, an image of Christ to bless the mother dough. Then we prepare the mix of flours, 40% durum, 40% white flour and 20% of whole wheat flour.
Ωραία.
Ωραία.
Είναι έτοιμο το αλεύρι μας τώρα. Τώρα, αύριο το πρωί, θα έρθουμε πρώτα ο Θεός και θα πιάσουμε το ζυμαράκι μας, μαζί με το προζύμι και λίγο αλάτι που θα βάλουμε μέσα.
Καληνύχτα. Τα λέμε αύριο.
Καληνύχτα, αύριο.
Καληνύχτα.
Αύριο θα ζυμώσουμε, ωραία.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. We are back in the bakery, and I'm curious to see how this sourdough has behaved overnight. Oof. There's less acidity than I expected. Last night, the sourdough we used to refresh was quite acid. Now the acidity is rather low. Reminds me a bit of a red wine with quite some complexity. So it's quite a high amount of sourdough.
We prepare the dough with a very large percentage of sourdough. Then add salt and oil and mix.
Είναι εντάξει νομίζω, Κάρλ.
Next is one of the most important parts of the preparation of the bread in the monastery. The blessing of the dough by one of the priests. Father Isaias prepares incense and lights candles, getting ready to receive the blessing of the bread.
Νάτος και ο παπάς μας. Ο πατήρ Δαμασκηνός είναι αδελφός της Μονής, είναι από Φιλανδία.
Από Φιλανδία.
Ναι, και είναι αυτός που μας έφερε το δεύτερο προζύμι που έχουμε στη Μονή μας. Είναι σίκαλι το προζύμι, είναι σικάλαιος. Σίκαλοι χρησιμοποιούν σαν αλεύρι στη χώρα του εκεί και το προσαρμόσαμε και στα δικά μας εδώ τα προζύμια και στη ζύμη μας. Είναι πολύ αρωματικό το προζύμι του και έχουν παράδοση στη χώρα του, το κρατάνε από γενιά σε γενιά. Είναι περίπου 230 χρόνων το προζύμι που έχει ο πατήρ Δαμασκηνός. Ευλόγησον Δέσποτα του θυμίαμα.
Ευλογητός ο Θεός ημών πάντοτε και στους αιώνες των αιώνων.
Αμήν.
Χριστός ανέστη εκ νεκρών θανάτων πατήσας και της εν της μνήμας εις ζωήν χαρισάμενο.
Ποια είναι η σημασία του ψωμιού στο μοναστέρι?
Το προζυμένιο ψωμί διαβάζεται, ευλογείται η ζύμη και καταναλώνεται ιδιαίτερα περισσότερο την περίοδο που έχουμε νηστεία στο Άγιο Όρος. Είναι από τις βασικές τροφές έτσι στα μοναστήρια. Το ιδιαίτερο που έχει αυτό το προζύμι, που δεν το έχουν τα άλλα τα προζύμια, είναι ότι αυτό το προζύμι ευλογείται με το τίμιο ξύλο. Όλα τα μοναστήρια στο Άγιο Όρος έχουν τμήμα του τιμίου ξύλου. Με αυτό το σταυρό, κατά τη διάρκεια της αγρυπνίας της υψώσεως του σταυρού, ευλογείται αυτό το προζύμι και υπάρχει όλο το χρόνο, το αναπιάνουμε και το κρατάμε και με αυτό το χρησιμοποιούμε σαν προζύμι.
Μπορούμε να δούμε με το σταυρό, με το τίμιο ξύλινο?
Βέβαια, μπορούμε να το δούμε. Αυτός είναι ο σταυρός που περιέχει μεγάλο τμήμα του τιμίου ξύλου, ίσως και ο μεγαλύτερος σταυρός της Μονής, όπου με αυτό, κατά τη διάρκεια της αγρυπνίας της υψώσεως του τιμίου σταυρού, ευλογείται το ζυμάρι που είπαμε και φτιάχνουμε το προζύμι. Έχει αυτή την ιδιότητα να διωγγώνει το αλεύρι, το τίμιο ξύλο.
Ευχαριστώ που μου δείξατε το σταυρό.
Να είστε καλά. Να προσκυνήσουμε και να φύγουμε.
The bread has doubled in size and it is ready to go into the oven. And while we wait for it to be baked, I want to find out more about the rye sourdough.
Since when
is the rice sourdough here on Mount Athos?
Since 2017, maybe. I'm not really sure about the year. I've always been quite a lot into baking. And I just mentioned to Father Isaias that we have this amazing rice sourdough in Finland, and I brought it here and he liked it very much, so we started using it in bread baking here too. The sourdough itself is, we don't know exactly how old it is, but probably from the early 19th or late 18th century.
Do you only bake with the rice sourdough, or do you have a wheat sourdough as well in Finland?
Wheat sourdough generally was not a big thing in Finland in the past, but it's become quite trendy. So I took the sourdough that we use here at the monastery with me to Finland and started using that.
So if I understand well, the two sourdoughs that are here, you have them as well in Finland. Would it be possible for me to come to Finland and pick up these two sourdoughs as well for the sourdough library?
You're welcome. I'll bake you some good Finnish rye bread.
I'm looking forward to that.
Να δοκιμάσουμε το ψωμί μας. Έχει πολύ ωραίο φούσκωμα. Ωραία αρώματα.
Surprisingly, with the big amount of sourdough that was used in the recipe, you don't get the typical sourness. It's very smooth. There is some sweetness inside. I think that's from the whole wheat flour. The durum wheat flour that is used in the recipe brings a kind of cereal flavor. Very nice, very pleasant to eat. So, congratulations.
And you.
Well, I hope you liked this movie. I did a lot, actually. In the next stream, we will present part 2, where I will go to Finland to discover that rice sourdough of Father Damaskino's place. So now we venture into the realm of science, experimentation, and discovery. This year, we embarked on a unique experiment, one that allowed us to explore the evolution of sourdoughs stored in our library from 2013 up to 2022. In this extraordinary experiment, we returned a sample of each sourdough to its original owners. We then asked to feed this sample in their environment using their local flour and water. And after 15 and 30 days, we collected samples from them for comparison. The aim was to compare the original sourdough we received, the current sample we have in the library, and the current sourdough at the owner's bakeries. The results are fascinating. They are offering a glimpse into the dynamic life of sourdough and how it evolves over time and across different environments. However, we're just peeling back the first layers of this complex study. Over the coming months, we'll delve deeper into these findings, uncovering the secrets that lie within these sourdoughs. To discuss more about this experiment, I am thrilled to introduce a special guest. Guylaine, my esteemed colleague from R&D, who has been instrumental in managing the scientific aspects of the sourdough library. She's actually my partner in crime. Together, we've been navigating the intriguing world of sourdough science, and we are eager to share the latest insights with you. Guylaine, welcome.
Hello, Carl.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, finally, we have the results of this very unique experiment, never been done before like this. And as there are many myths, assumptions, and unclarities on how sourdough starters behave in a different environment, what can we share today with the viewers?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to explain the objective of this Sourdough Experiment Edition 2023. So we would like to answer three main questions. The first one, which is a fair question and which is frequently asked by people visiting the library, which is, do the sample maintained in the library remain the same as when they entered in the library? Then the second question, which is quite fair too, was, and what about the sourdough maintained in the bakery?
Okay.
And the last question, if the sourdough from the library differ from the sourdough currently kept in the bakery, would it be possible, by refreshing this sample from the library in the bakery, to obtain a sourdough identical to the one currently in the bakery?
Okay, so could you describe the approach that we used in this experiment, including the selection and the analysis of the sourdough samples?
Yes, sure. So to answer these three questions, 17 sourdough kept in the library.
I believe we have some slides to support that.
Sorry.
I don't know, let's just see.
Yeah.
These are here you see all the sourdoughs that we've selected. That was before we packed them and send them to the owners. But these are the questions. Oops.
Yeah.
Let's go back. I need to go back.
This one.
This one you need. All right.
Yes. So, so 17 sourdough has been selected. And these sourdough are kept in the library since 1 to 10 years, so meaning more or less 2 sourdough a year. For each of these 17 sourdough, we analyzed 4 different samples. One coming from the library, a second one coming from the bakery, and 2 other ones obtained by refreshing the sourdough from the library in the bakery after 15 days and 30 days of refreshment. And all these samples were analyzed regarding their biochemical characteristics. So, for instance, the pH, the acidity, the acetic and lactic contents, but also regarding their microbiological characteristics with the lactic acid bacteria and yeast species present in these samples, and the counting, so the population, the number of cells of these 2 communities. These analyses were managed by the Bolzano University, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank them for all the work that has been done, very fantastic work.
Anna and Kachika.
Yes.
If they are watching, Anna and Kachika, Marco and Rafaela, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, so what were the first results and early conclusions regarding the preservation of sourdough in the library, and what implications do these findings have for the library, actually?
Yes. So, as you know, we received the partial results a few days ago, so it was quite short to come here today with all the conclusions. But I'm able to share at least 2 information today. And it is about the lactic acid bacteria microflora composition of the samples.
Okay.
So
what do we have?
We've seen that for 12 sourdough out of 17, there is an evolution of the composition of the lactic acid bacteria, both in the library and in the bakery samples.
Okay.
And it evolved the same.
They evolved the same?
Yes. And I choose 2 concrete examples to illustrate this. So the number 79.
Okay, 79 is from Josie.
Josie, yes.
Josie Baker in San Francisco.
And the number 125.
125 is from Anita in Slovenia.
So here, for these 2 sourdough, you can see the composition of the lactic acid bacteria of the sample kept in the library, so on the left, and of the sample kept in the bakery on the right. And you can see that they are identical regarding the composition.
Yeah.
The second main information is that this evolution of the composition lead to a loss of biodiversity if we compare to the sample when it entered the library. And here again, you can see on the, for these 2 sourdough, on the right-hand side, the composition of the original sample. And there is a clear decrease regarding the number of bacteria species in this sourdough.
Okay, so that means that what we do with the library, when we go and get a sourdough somewhere, we preserve the biodiversity by isolating the strains that are present in that sourdough at that time. So this biodiversity is preserved. So that's a good thing we do.
Sure.
Because we see that some of these sourdoughs have lost their biodiversity in the place of origin, but also here, and they evolved both. So if we have to send a backup to the owners, it will look alike as what they have currently in their bakery because they evolved the same way.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I think that this first information really confirms the importance of the sourdough library.
Yeah. So what are the next steps in the experiment? And what additional information are we currently awaiting to answer the initial questions?
Yes. So we already answered this question from a microbiological point of view, but now we really need to go into the biochemical, so to see if there is any evolution too. But as you know, Carl, I'm also expecting more questions than answers, which is usually the case with such a study. Yeah. And I'm expecting to start new experiments in the coming months and years.
In the next live stream, we will have Marco Gobetti, who will join us. What would be a question that we can ask Marco right now?
I will ask Marco about the importance of the biodiversity, because we've seen that there is a loss. So the question is this biodiversity really important for the sourdough?
Okay, well, thank you very much for these insights. You will be coming back 5 times more today. You will be with us the whole day, and every time we will maybe see what questions we receive from people, and maybe we can tackle some of these early questions popping up from the audience to help us dig deeper into the subject. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Carl.
See you later.
See you.
See you later. Okay. Let's see. I don't know by heart the next topic. If someone can help me out. There it is. So we can go. What you have to remember from this experiment is that we are only scratching the surface here. There are many more revelations and insights to come as we continue to explore the amazing world of sourdough. So stay tuned, watch our upcoming posts, keep your questions ready, and prepare to embark on a scientific journey like no other. And this sourdough journey continues as we present our next feature. This one is a special treat for all bakery enthusiasts out there. In our upcoming film, we will be engaging in insightful conversations with some of the most influential figures in the bakery world today. We have Guy Frankel from Seor Bread, owner recently of Sourdough 127 Sara here in the library, but he's also known for his artistic loaves and boundary-pushing techniques. From London, we'll be joined by Sophia Hanschuk, the mastermind behind Sophia's Sourdough, a beloved bakery that has captured the heart of locals and tourists alike. And last but not least, we'll be talking to Ramon Garriga from Gluten Morgan, the notorious hobby baker from Argentina. These influencers will share their unique stories, their passion for sourdough, and how they're pushing the boundaries in their respective fields. It's an opportunity to learn from the best, gain insights into their craft, and perhaps even get inspired to start your own sourdough journey. But that's not all. After the movie, I'm delighted to announce that I'll be joined by Sara de Pelsmaeker for a live discussion on gut health and its link with sourdough bread. Sara, a colleague of mine, will shed a light on the fascinating topic and answer your burning questions. So buckle up for a thrilling exploration into the captivating world of sourdough, its influencers, and the science that backs it. So enjoy, and see you back in about 5 minutes with Sara. Welcome to the Sourdough Library in St. Vith, Belgium. Over the past few years, we've seen a growing trend of consumers looking for more natural processes in food making and much better understood. It is the perfect time for the bread industry to help amplify this message and bring it to the public. So let's check in with some bread experts around the world on the topic of sourdough and health.
Jesse, my husband, and I were at home with our 8-month-old baby, and we said, look, the locals are all in isolation. I want to bake my bread. And we baked about 12 breads, which is exactly what fit into my oven at the time, and distributed them to my local neighbors. It's obviously something that people were happy to have in their neighborhoods. So we did a Kickstarter, and it was queues down the road from day one.
Sí, yo creo que hay una vuelta de volver a los principios y volver a los panes bien hechos, ya sea a nivel más casero, artesano y a nivel industrial también.
I thought it would be an amazing adventure to try and go on bringing what I did on a very small, minuscule scale at home to an industrial-sized facility. Still, everything is naturally leavened with sourdough. But to find a way to do all of that and do it on a larger scale and consistently, the same bun every day, for me was a huge challenge.
The main thing is that I focused on good grains and just good flavor, and that's all. There's nothing else in there, it's just 3 ingredients.
Y el tiempo es lo que le da el sabor justamente al pan. Y la masa madre hace eso, que demores un poco más en hacer estas preparaciones, y eso es lo que le da un sabor característico.
I think of bread as art of the 5 senses. Here, every sense you get to enjoy and is being stimulated by your bread.
That, for me, makes the perfect sourdough. That's all it needs. It needs a slight nuttiness, a really lovely, nice and even crumb, and it needs to have a fairly thin crust. I don't like it too thick.
Los Angeles is a very health-oriented city. And the breads that we do here, other than being delicious and beautiful, we really focus on the health part.
Había una cultura quizás que el pan integral era un pan solo para gente que hacía dieta, tendría que ser un pan duro, pesado. En cambio, con una buena fermentación y una buena hidratación logramos unos panes de harinas integrales que son increíblemente ricos e increíblemente saludables también.
Grains are packed with nutrients, with proteins, with fibers, with minerals, with starch. Now, only they are not accessible as such. We need to crack the code. To open the cavern of these grains, we have 2 options. We have sprouting, and in this specific case, we have fermentation. The lactic acid bacteria present in the sourdough produces an enzyme called protease. This protease is also present in human stomach, and the protease breaks down the gluten network into amino acids. By starting breaking down the gluten network already during the fermentation, we have already started the digestion of the bread.
We carried out a human in vivo study showing that the sourdough bread compared to the baker's yeast bread is more digestible. And we demonstrated that both looking for the emission of gas during digestion, looking for the transit of the bread during our intestinal tract, and looking for the absorption of nutrients like free amino acids. All the analyses were in a unique way showing that the sourdough bread was more digestible than all the other types of bread.
people come here as an advice from a health practitioner. They'll go somewhere and get nutritional advice and they'll say, well, if you are gluten intolerant, you should probably go and try spelt. So I often try and re-educate in that moment and say, do you know what? You could probably get away with my normal sourdough bread. The fact is that you've been consuming something that you can't actually digest because it's not been broken down well for you in your system.
And then the other benefit that we find with the sourdough fermentation is that it's a natural shelf life extender. And there's no preservatives other than the sourdough fermentation.
Hacer pan también es una terapia. Justamente ayuda a bajar mucho la locura que tenemos por ahí en estos días, bajar un cambio, como decimos nosotros, hacer bajar a tierra, conectarnos. Trabajar con las masas es muy desestresante.
There's a big aspect of health, something that people are starting to actually understand or think about. What is in my bread? What is in the things that I'm buying ready-made?
Our motto is a continuous journey towards a more perfect bread.
I see the future of bread bright. With sourdough breads or other baked goods like pizza, cakes, brownies, and all these other baked goods that can be made with sourdough, we have great opportunities ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to introduce our next speaker, a driver in her field and a driving force behind Puratos' commitment to health and well-being. Let's extend a warm welcome to Sara de Pelsmaeker, the leader of the health and well-being team at Puratos. So Sara, welcome in this live.
Thank you.
The first one of the day. It's a bit stressy and we don't know what will happen, but can you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, of course. So, my name is Sara de Pelsmaeker and I joined Puratos beginning of this year as a health and well-being director. So that means that within Puratos we have a thrive to make our products more healthier and also in the world of well-being. So my team works together with the different business units, together with the bakery, patisserie and chocolate to make our products much more healthier, not forgetting the indulgence, of course. So yeah, Karel, I'm thrilled to be here. I think it's a fantastic event, a 10-year sourdough librarian.
Yes.
I think fantastic to be here. So yes, glad.
Okay, well, let's start with a first question that is probably always burning in people's head is that what makes sourdough bread different from a regular yeasted type of bread when it comes to gut health?
Well, I think the answer is quite simple to explain. So you always start with making a bread, flour, water, salt, and then you add either yeast or you add the sourdough, mother's starter basically. If I take the example of the yeast, there is no bacteria inside. So when you use the yeast, the bread will leaven and you will have a nice looking bread with a good texture, an okay taste, of course, and that will be it. But if you start with a sourdough starter, you have the lactic acid bacteria, which you talked about and Guylaine talked about as well, which can give you many health benefits that you need in terms of having a lot of gut health benefits, basically. So I think with sourdough, you make a much richer bread for not only taste and texture, but also for health benefits.
Okay, so can you explain a little bit the role of fermentation in making, when you make a sourdough bread, and its potential benefits to the gut health?
Yeah, so indeed we talk about fermentation. So you have the lactic acid bacteria and sometimes also a little bit of yeast inside, that starter basically, where you have this really long fermentation. So there is, we call it the in vitro fermentation outside the body, because you ferment also inside your digestive system, but it goes outside already for a very long time. So that helps to already break down the gluten structure, and it helps you actually to free already the amino acids that was talked about in the previous movie as well, that can help you take up these free amino acids, which are very important building blocks for your body. And also the gluten can create some inflammation, we all know that, so also to help reduce that. So I think that is one of the big things that fermentation does to already break down that gluten structure.
Okay. Are there any specific strains of bacteria in sourdough that are beneficial for our gut microbiome?
That's of course the question, and I think also there that with this library we set the first step. There's a lot of research ongoing in lactic acid bacteria, what they do specifically. Mostly these research studies are done on one strain or maybe two together, but in a sourdough you have a complex system of different lactic acid bacteria. And what we need to do is to try to understand how they work together, not only in the sourdough, but also in the matrix of the bread, and then also in our digestive system. So I think what we have here, it's the fountain of knowledge, I think, about lactic acid bacteria and what they do really in our digestive system. So I think that's the part of the quest as well.
So how does sourdough bread compact or impact the digestive system compared to yeast bread?
Yeah, so there are a few things I already mentioned. The gluten breakdown, the fermentation already helps with freeing up these amino acids, which helps you with more proteins building inside your body. There are other enzymes as well you have that are produced by the microbes. One of them is, for example, phytase, and that helps to create more bioavailability on vitamins and minerals, which is, of course, interesting. If you have that in your gut, you have more vitamins, minerals that you can take up. You take it up in your blood, and they can go to wherever they're needed. Another topic is also, of course, the work that we get on the glucose index. So we know if we eat something with carbohydrates inside, we have a peak in our glucose, blood glucose levels, and you have a drop. With sourdough, we see that this drop is not that steep and falls back quite fast. We have a slow surmounting of that glucose index, and it goes down also quite slowly, which means that it releases the energy quite slowly. And of course, it helps with your satiety. And what we have seen also from studies is that people are really helped with less bloating, less gas formation. So in terms of digestive comfort, it really also helps the sourdough.
It's really health and well-being aspect of sourdough bread.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you talk about the nutritional content of sourdough bread, and are there specific nutrients in sourdough bread that benefit the gut health?
Well, in my previous answer, I already talked about the vitamins and minerals. So that's always a very important topic, because that is something that people know. Vitamins, minerals, we all need that. So freeing these ones from the bread, from the dough, is very important to take it up in your digestive system. But there are ongoing research on the postbiotic effects of sourdough bread. What does that mean? You have microbes, and of course, through the baking, you kill the microbes, but they can make specific molecules, basically, that can help you do something good. An example of that is short-chain fatty acids, we call it. For example, what these things can do is actually they feed the gut microbiome that we have in our gut itself. So we have 1 trillion microbes in our body itself. They also need to be fed with good things, preferably. So these good things are these short-chain fatty acids, and they can help you with preventing also a lot of other types of diseases, which I think is very beneficial. But we are still at the tip of the iceberg of understanding what sourdough and this postbiotic effect can do. So I think that is a quest where also from Puratos on, we want to search on. We want to understand what does this sourdough bread do. And that is one of the missions of Puratos, of my team, to explore that, of course, together with you and your library, to understand how that is happening. Because that is the key to food as a prevention and staying healthy, basically.
Yeah. Could sourdough bread be a good option for the people with certain restrictions or sensitivities, like a gluten intolerance?
Well, I think yes. I talked about this in vitro fermentation. So the long fermentation helps to break down the gluten network. Normally, if you don't have that, with the yeast bread, for example, you have to do all that fermentation yourself. Your system is not able to cope with that. So by doing this long fermentation already outside, you already start to break it down. And the last part, basically, of the breaking down can be done by your gut. So I think people who are having an intolerance or having difficulties to break that gluten down, in their own system can really benefit from eating sourdough bread. So the loss of being able to eat bread, I think we can bring that joy and that pleasure back to people who have that intolerance.
Okay. Are all sourdough breads created equal in terms of gut health benefits, or are there certain things that consumers should look for when purchasing sourdough bread?
It's a good question, because indeed there are some different things to understand about sourdough bread. So first of all, it's important there are two different things that you can see if you buy sourdough bread. You find the actual sourdough bread or the bread with sourdough. And there is a difference. So the sourdough bread is actually made with the starter, and it really includes all this lactic acid bacteria and almost no to a little bit of yeast. So there you have the full range of health benefits that we've already been discussing about. Then you have the bread with sourdough. So, and that is where you have much more yeast, so less health benefits. So I think it's always good if you, for example, on the gluten intolerance, look into sourdough bread and not bread with sourdough.
Okay. Can you share any recent studies or research on the health benefits of sourdough bread?
There's a lot of research ongoing by a lot of academic partners. Like you indicated, you will have Professor Gobetti here in the next session, so I'm sure he will explain many more research topics that he's working on. Like I said, working on these lactic acid bacteria, how complex they are, how they work together is very important. But I really want to also address one topic that we at Puratos are looking at. It's a European project, it's called Health Firm, because I don't know if it has been mentioned already, but before the Industrial Revolution, basically, fermentation was used to preserve food. So it was very common on all types of food products. People were fermenting things to keep them safe, basically, to keep them edible. And that is a bit gone by going through ultra-processed foods. Today, we don't use fermentation as much anymore as a preservation technique, but more for taste, texture, and now we're deep diving into the health benefits. So one of the things that we are doing with Puratos is we're having this Health Firm project where we look into yeast bread and sourdough bread and see how this fermentation can really help in going back into digestive health. And I think not only looking at fermentation for taste, texture, but also health benefits and looking into the preservation. I think that is a good quest also to look into sourdough breads.
All right. And a final question. How would you recommend incorporating sourdough bread into a balanced diet for optimal gut health?
But I think it's the way to go, to be honest. Since I joined Puratos, I've found the richness of eating sourdough bread. It's fantastic. Not only do you have a richness in taste, in textures, you can have really tasting panels with all types of sourdough, but step by step we are discovering all these health benefits in terms of prevention, keeping your gut microbiome healthy. And well, I don't know if you know, but there are certain blue zones in the world. Have you heard about it? It's these zones where people get to 100 years. There are many more people who get to 100 years. And their fermentation, eating sourdough bread, is part of their being. It's not only a part of what they feed themselves with, but they feed their family and their friends, but it's also doing it together, taking the time to do it. I think that in that mindset, sourdough bread is, I think, maybe a good start for a happy, healthy life. And I hope we can help with that.
Well, since you mentioned the Blue Zone, I was recently in Austin,
yes,
together with Adrian Grenier, the Vincent Chase from Entourage.
Yes.
Maybe you know that series. And I had a discussion with him about sustainability. And we did a workshop on sourdough together. And one of the people who was assisting that sourdough workshop was a friend of the director, I always forget his name, who made this Netflix series, yes, about the Blue Zones. And he had a sourdough with him that came from Sardinia in one of the Blue Zones,
yes,
which he said, this goes back 400 years. So it's at home in my fridge. It's not an official sample for the library, but I'm now going to connect with that person in Sardinia and try to get it into the library.
Oh, fantastic.
So maybe we find it.
So if you make a bread with it, invite me.
I will.
Good.
So thank you very much for this chat.
You're welcome.
It was very inspiring. I hope the viewers have listened carefully. This chat has been recorded and it will be rediffused and people can rewatch it.
Fantastic.
And check the details of the thing. So thank you very much, Sara, for being my guest.
And have a great day.
I will.
Bye.
I'm all ready. Thank you. Bye-bye. So that brings us to the end of this first of 6 live streams. And I'd like to thank all of you for staying with us. Our next live will start in about 1 hour and 5 minutes, where we will show the second part of that Quest for Sourdough movie, where we will go together to discover the sourdoughs from Father Damaskinos in Finland. And furthermore, as mentioned before, I will connect with Professor Marco Gobetti, actually my sourdough hero from the Free University in Bolzano. Do not forget to bake and share your celebration breads to win this. The guys stick the book. I cannot take it, but it's okay. It's stick. Do not forget, you can win this book. And to give you more details, if you forgot what it was, tomorrow we will post a reminder on Facebook and my Instagram account capturing the essence of the contest. If there are questions that we have not answered during this live, we will do so the coming days, weeks or months. I guessed there was a question or two popping in. I see we have still a little bit of time, so we will answer some of the questions that came in during the live stream. So one of the questions was, do you have an Indian sourdough? We use it in India to make Indian bread called khamir roti. I hope I pronounce it well. So I don't know who asked that question, but it's a very good question. For the moment, we do not have any sourdough from India here in the library. So I would do a call out if there is people in India having a sourdough at home, baking khamir roti with it, let me know. Register your sourdough on the Quest for Sourdough website, send me a direct message, say, hey, look, I registered my sourdough, it's that one. We use it to make the khamir roti, and then I might get back to you in order to check the details of that sourdough, and I might send you a box to collect that sourdough, or who knows, I might come to India to pick up several sourdoughs from India. And then another question was, which quests for sourdough are planned for 2024? Well, in my office in Brussels, I have a long list of more than 20 possible Quest for Sourdoughs around the world. I have discovered sourdough in the Himalaya at 5,000 meters above altitude. I would love to get my hands on that sourdough and make a Quest for Sourdough movie about it. Only I need to go there by helicopter. The helicopter drops me off, leaves me, and I have to stay there for a week. I don't know if I can survive 1 week at an altitude of 5,000 meters, or I could decide to walk up there, which I don't like. I don't like to walk. But I could walk up there with my camera guy and stuff. So it's a bit a complicated story. There is sourdoughs that I discovered in New Zealand. People have contacted me to say that they found the sourdough in the Amazon and so on. So there is many possibilities. But my dream for next year would be to make a Quest for Sourdough movie about panettone. We see panettone as an amazing thing, being big in many countries and on social media every year, growing in importance. So we have enough contacts in the library. We have here more than 20 sourdoughs that are used to make panettone. We have contacts in Italy, in Brazil, in Peru, just to name a few big countries. And I know some people in the US who make amazing sourdough. So I would like to do a Quest for Sourdough, multiple episodes to discover the beauty of panettone. So that's what we received as questions that we can answer right now. I'm nearly to the end of the stream. I would like to invite you, if you liked this one and you have time to join for the next one, do so. You will discover more things about this amazing library that we have now for 10 years. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned and see you soon.